Hello and welcome to the Finnish Audiocast. I am one of your hosts, the Colin and Tom Baker tribute hair act called Aidan Artemuk, and I am here with Mr. David, who has very kindly let me use his studio here.
Good afternoon, good day.
Hello, and what do we do on this podcast? Well, we're going to talk to you about Big Finish Productions, who have done a number of audio plays over the last at least 2 decades, I think, isn't it? 2 decades at this point, and many of which are Doctor Who. And today we shall do their first Doctor Who one, called Doctor Who: The Sirens of Time, starring 3 incarnations of the Doctor: Peter Davison and Sylvester McCoy and Colin Baker as their own doctors. So, David, what did you think of this story? Because I asked you to purchase and listen to it, because you'd listened to some Big Finish stuff before, hadn't you? So that's one of the reasons you agreed to do this with me.
Yeah. So I'm approaching this more from a fan of the TV series and such. And as I've said to you before, I have a listen to a couple of the Big Finish audio plays. And, you know, one of my favourites is, of course, Spare Parts, which I forgot to check the year which was released to see how much of a time difference it was. So, anyway, for a first kind of venture into the main, I would say main canon of Doctor Who with the main character, it was interesting. Do I think it could have been a single Doctor story? Possibly. I wouldn't have minded it, I wouldn't have minded a bit of just Sylvester McCoy or Colin Baker. More Colin Baker isn't necessarily a bad thing. Subjective, of course, but so yeah, there is that. It's also interesting looking back on, even like for me being a tech person, the production quality as well. you can really tell the difference between then. So that was what, 99?
That was 99. Yes.
Yeah, you can really tell how much the whole sort of process for them, the edits, the level of production has increased as well. I personally felt that this was very much a 1980s style Doctor Who done on a very low budget, etc. As a proof of concept, how each, well, there's 4 episodes, like a classic story, but then first episode is 7, second episode is 5, and then the third episode is 6, and then they obviously come together in episode 4
at the end.
So, I guess it's that like they're small proof of concepts for, this is how we would do a Sylvester McCoy story, this is how we would do a Colin Baker story, this is how we would do a Peter Davison story.
Well, I think it was a statement as well to say these are the ones we have currently. And they said in the behind the scenes feature, which we also listened to, that they were aiming to get more if they could, like Paul and Tom. It took Tom a few years, but Paul seemed to be very much interested in doing it.
Well, by that point, it was 3 years since he had done his TV movie.
Was it 60? No, it was 2 years when this came out, because this was 1990. Was it actually 90? No, we were right. It was 3 years. It was 3 years, because it was 1999. 1996 was the TV movie, and it would be another. I think it was 2001. His first audio production comes out.
Mm-hmm.
So that's quite not as long as some people do, because again, on the behind the scenes feature that you have here, you have the 3 actors talking about how they got in that studio, and then they were just like pretty much bang on from the start.
Bearing in mind that Sylvester at that point was the second, it was the most recent out of the 3, but that was still 10 years after the show had been cancelled.
So, what did you think about each episode individually from a story perspective? Because I suppose we should talk about, because each episode is kind of like has a mini story in it with an overarching arc, which takes us into the final episode. I think it's very good for especially for a first outing. Again, on the behind the scenes documentary, they say at the start, this is the first Doctor Who drama that's been recorded ever since the TV movie, and you suddenly sit there and you're thinking, oh my gosh, it really is the first Doctor Who drama that's been done for a while. And so yeah, I thought it was very good as a starting off point. I mean, you've got a lot of the basic elements in here. You've got the Time Lords, of course, which is great because I love the Time Lords.
Yeah.
Unlike certain, how shall we put it, head writers who seem to destroy them at every whim they have, because just screw us, I guess, who like it, who like them. But yeah, so there's a big threat, and somehow the Doctor is involved in 3 of his incarnations, and so in each aspect we have something that is somehow relating to this major threat to a time, but we don't know what it is until pretty much close to the end of the final of the episode, really. I mean, until then it's the Doctor kind of guessing, which is always good, because the Doctor should always be kind of guessing, trying to figure out, well, what's going on here, what is the big threat behind everything that's going on. And it's just great to see that. And it's great in the final episode when you get to see them play off against each other finally, which is possibly another reason why we didn't have any set companions in this one, because it just allowed them to...
I felt it was... Well, obviously on the cover art for the well, it would be the CD or even actually 1999, they might have even been punting them on cassette tapes as well, but... Seven, Sylvester is wearing his TV movie costume. Probably easiest for them to get a hold of. He hated his question mark jumper. Anyway, I believe Seven is alone at this point, but I found that interesting, especially with 5, how it implies that Tegan and Turlough are just locked in the TARDIS, which is a way of them getting around the fact they don't have Janet Fielding and I can't remember who played Turlough.
It was Peter something, I think.
Yeah,
I can't remember his name.
But yeah, it was a good way for them to kind of get. Oh dear, our companions are locked away, or they're just travelling alone.
And poor Colin seems to be travelling on his own at this point as well. And can I just say, this was also the first starting off point where you could see that Big Finish really knew how to use the 6th Doctor effectively.
Yeah.
Because let's face it, poor old Colin's Doctor got a lot of shtick when the show was on for a lot of things. And you can argue that if you want, but Big Finish really, as the years went on, really took him and properly defined what he was supposed to be, this bombastic, decisive character. Because whenever there's a multi-Doctor story like this with Big Finish, I found that it's usually when the 6th Doctor is there, he's usually the one who's taking the lead and saving the day, when all the other Doctors are in terrible danger.
Yeah, and they're arguing with each other. That's I suppose that's slightly secondary to the theme for this episode. But yeah, the Big Finish, and I guess Colin was able to then actually play his character to his full potential. Obviously, they would eventually go on and actually do a proper regeneration story for him, several years in the future. But anyway,
that's another episode.
Yeah.
So yes, what did you think of the overarching villains? Let's call them that. The Knights of Alicia and also the Sirens themselves. What did you think of them as antagonists?
Yeah, interesting choice. Something a little different, I guess, is taking these whole, because sirens are supposed to lead sailors to their untimely demise and destroy their ship. So it's a unique take on that classic kind of folklorism, but obviously make it specific to the Doctor Who universe, so that they're actually, time based, which again is unique. So I liked that aspect. The strange wailing and stuff like that would happen occasionally was a bit spooky as well. Again, the fact that it's all audio, I would actually argue it makes it more effective than if it were on a janky, wobbly set.
Oh, definitely. I mean, one of the things that I've always loved about the audios is that I can always see it playing in my head how it's supposed to look.
Yeah.
I don't know if you can ever see that, but I can always see it picture clearly. That's one of the things I like about it, because you're not limited by any effect technology or anything. I'm even talking about nowadays. You can still just make it as big or as small as you need to in order to make it work, which is great.
Going back to the whole thing of this is their proof of concept episode.
Mhm.
They've managed to bag three three actors who have played different iterations, unique villains, a nice take on some Gallifrey stuff as well.
Love Gallifrey stuff.
So of course, at this point, you know, it was still existing. This is before Russell T Davies blew it up.
Then brought back by Stephen Moffat, who did nothing with it.
Yeah, and then
Chris Chibnall blowing it up
blew
again for no reason.
Yeah. Anyway, that's all in the future. The year is 1999.
Yep.
As I was saying earlier, I feel that certainly overall, it's a good proof of concept for them to, as like a story purpose, and like I said earlier as well, each episode acts as a very good. It's got the overall narrative, but I feel that they did well to really showcase each incarnation. So again, it's good proof of concept for this is how we would write for 7, this is how we would write for 5, this is how we'd write for 6, and then this is how we would write for all of them, because it's audio, so we can pretend that no one has aged in the intervening years.
Indeed, their voices sound just the same as they did back then, which is great. That doesn't always happen with people. Their voices deepen and change after all, but they've pretty much stayed the same throughout, which is pretty good.
Yeah.
The side characters that we have, I really like the person who sort of takes the role of the companion here, who is also revealed to be the villain at the end. Let's see, who was it played by? Just look at the cast list here. Sarah Moat. I think I've heard that before. I think she appears in several other ones later.
Yeah, I recognised her voice.
Yeah, and she's just great. She's a delight because in each one she is technically the same character, but she's playing it in a slightly different variation, and so she can go from deliciously evil in the final episode to angelic and etheric, and at the start a lost survivor. And a covert operator, and it's great vocal talent on display.
Agree. Also fits the siren theme as well. So again, sirens act all innocent, beautiful, angelic, and then once the ship gets close to shore or close to crashing, they are thoroughly evil creatures. So
leading them astray.
Exactly.
In terms of Time Lords, we have the Celestial Intervention Agency Coordinator Van Cell. Try saying that 3 times fast. That's basically, as the Doctor would later call them, they're the Time Lord Dirty Tricks Brigade. They are essentially the ones who maybe skirt the edges of that non-interference thing that they have going on.
Is this the first time that they actually appear?
No, they have been mentioned before. They were mentioned in the Deadly Assassin, the 4th Doctor story.
Ah, right, okay.
Because the Doctor is allowed at this point to pretty much go around and do what he wants, and that's by special dispensation of the CIA. Because he's done so much for Gallifrey for the time saving them, so they thought, okay, we'll let you do what you want, but we might call you on occasion to do just a special favor. And so we do that. Actually, an old classmate of the Doctor, as it turned out, they didn't get on, but a lot of the time they're able to put their differences aside. Also, the Time Lord President, who I also like, who also appears later on in future audios, and he's great fun because he actually seems to be quite moral.
Which is a change.
Which is a nice change from a lot of the Time Lord things that we've seen. He's generally doing the best he can in a bad situation that he finds himself in.
Because just on the last time we saw a president, excluding the Doctor, of course, is Barusa from the 5 Doctors.
We're not counting Rassilon.
That he was just a floating head in the 5 Doctors anyway.
Yeah.
So he was thoroughly amoral and corrupt.
Yeah.
And willing to damage the timeline.
Yeah, he wasn't always like that, though. That's the sad thing about Barusa.
I'm sure that's a statement on absolute power corrupts, absolutely.
Yeah.
But anyway,
it's sad, but yeah, it's nice to see that a Time Lord President who actually seems to have done all right for himself. So in each episode, we also have first episode we have Sancroft, the old man in the wheelchair, and his carer Ruthly, who is their banter is wonderful. I thought it was just fun because it's not that he hates her exactly, because I don't think he does, but he gets a rise out of annoying her, and she, I don't think necessarily hates him exactly, but she hates that she's in this situation.
Yeah.
And so they have this interesting little banter going on, and
the pair of them aren't exactly happy with their own situation, so they're obviously kind of rising up to that kind of thing.
And it turns out that Sancroft is something of a war criminal, and in this altered timeline, he gets rescued and inspired to do another wave of conquest. I get the feeling he was probably used as a figurehead, and he didn't have much of a say in it, because in his old age, he seems to have looked at his old mistakes and done, what was I doing? Oh, look at it. I killed all those people. I am... It's sad. It's sad that when you see... I mean, it has to happen with people like that, but also it is sad when you just see them in their old age, regretting all their past actions. And a lot of the time, it's hard to stay angry with them when that happens, because, what else can you do at this point? It was it was a long time ago. He's a different man now. It's either you forgive him or you stay angry forever. And, well, the species did stay angry forever and sent assassins after him, which is a shame. Second episode, we have interesting situation. First World War, German U-boat.
Yeah.
And what I loved about this is that they showed these Germans as proper people. They because they were nice people too. I mean, they were in the middle of a war and sinking ships, but that's not personal. That's their job.
Yeah.
That's what they do. And when they did sink the ship that the Doctor and Ellie were on, they picked them up because as the captain says, we are not barbarians. Bring them on board, which is also great. And it's also great. The Fifth Doctor in that story, I feel in this story, I feel it's similar to the Caves of Androzani in that he's in a situation where it's not typically his sort of ballpark, because he's having to take actions that perhaps his next incarnation would find a lot easier, such as taking hold of a gun, holding someone at gunpoint, telling him, turn this ship around right now.
Yeah, because he wanted to get back to his little floating box that was apparently he was saying to them that it contained secrets that would help the Germans win the war, kind of thing.
I love how in each of these stories, a lot of the time, they have to figure out another excuse for the Doctor to give people to as to why he's got to get to this blue box.
Yeah,
look, it's fine. It's got impressive equipment inside, or the documents, and it's very important. All right.
Yeah.
Then episode after that, of course, is the sixth Doctor, and we have Azimendar, of course, the android, who I really liked. Azimendar. There was despite that he's an android, there's a certain human quality about him, and I loved how he was treated by the captain with respect, as if he wasn't just a thing and a machine. He's like, look, I trust you to fly this ship. You've got a spotless record. Just go ahead, do your thing. Which it was just great. I really enjoyed it, and in the final episode, as I say, we get the big resolution, and this is what I mean when I said earlier that the Sixth Doctor really takes the lead. He is clearly the one who is pushing things on, trying to work things out, and being the decisive one in the situation, while all the others are kind of...
He even says that, though, that specifically in his incarnation, he is more willing to effectively step forward, and he's the most pragmatic one.
Yeah, and one of my favourite moments is when he's holding down a Knight of Valicia, and he tells the Seventh Doctor, "What are you waiting for? Grab his gun! Well, what do I do now? Shoot the controls!" It's wonderful. So yes, this was a very good story, and I think it's a good jumping on point for people to do. All right, well, everyone, thanks for listening to us. Hopefully you've enjoyed, and I hope to see you again, or you hear me again at some point.
Thanks for having me, Aidan.
Yeah, my pleasure. Bye.